What if one of the most talked about interviews in modern history had layers we never saw? When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sat down with Oprah Winfrey in 2021, they made headlines with revelations about royal life, mental health struggles, and deep family fractures. But now, at 40, Prince Harry is hinting at a hidden side to that groundbreaking moment, an agenda that wasn't entirely his own. Could there have been more to Oprah's motives than we first realized? Was the interview truly about their story, or was it part of a larger narrative at play? As the world re-examines that pivotal conversation, the questions grow louder. Why is Harry speaking out about this now? What did he uncover about one of the most influential media figures of our time? And how does this revelation reshape the legacy of that unforgettable interview? Let's take a deeper look into this conspiracy. In March 2021, the world stood still as Oprah's intimate sit-down with Harry and Meghan aired. What began as a platform for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to share their truth turned into one of the most controversial media moments in recent memory. Accusations of racism within the royal family, admissions of mental health struggles, and Meghan's candid revelations about feeling unprotected made headlines across the globe. Oprah's role as the empathetic yet probing interviewer seemed pivotal. But now, Harry's reflections suggest that there was more to that interview than met the eye. In a recent discussion marking his milestone birthday, Harry hinted at complexities surrounding the interview that had been overlooked. Looking back, there were a lot of moving pieces. He shared a cryptic remark that immediately sent media circles buzzing. Was this a subtle critique of the interviewer who helped him break his silence? Or was Harry hinting at a hidden layer of influence that may have driven the conversation in a specific direction? For years, Oprah had been seen as a trusted ally of the Sussexes, a confidant who provided a global stage for their voice. Yet Harry's recent comments have prompted questions about whether her agenda aligned with theirs as closely as it seemed. Oprah Winfrey is no stranger to crafting cultural moments. From her early days as a talk show host, Oprah's ability to frame conversations that resonate deeply has been unmatched. She's been both celebrated and critiqued for her knack for storytelling, blending human vulnerability with narratives that dominate headlines. This mastery of emotional connection undoubtedly made her the perfect choice for Harry and Meghan's tell-all moment. Yet Harry's words now cast a shadow of doubt. Reflecting on his relationship with Oprah, Harry spoke about the dynamics at play during their collaboration. There's always a balance in these things, what you share versus how it's framed. Sometimes you don't realize how that balance tips until much later, he said. Such introspection raises the possibility that Harry, in hindsight, may feel the interview served purposes beyond their control. Could Oprah have had her own reasons for pushing certain narratives? After all, the stakes for her were enormous too. The interview was her first major exclusive after launching her Apple TV Plus partnership and was poised to bolster her media empire in an increasingly competitive space. For Meghan and Harry, the interview represented liberation, a chance to articulate their struggles without the constraints of royal protocols. But for Oprah, it was a cultural and professional triumph, reigniting her relevance in the modern media landscape. While the Sussexes bore the brunt of the public and familial fallout, Oprah gained accolades, awards, and ratings. This disparity is a lens through which Harry may now view the experience differently. The immediate aftermath of the interview was seismic. Harry and Meghan became both icons of resilience and targets of intense criticism. While their revelations earned them sympathy from supporters, the British royal family faced a storm of scrutiny. Headlines accusing the institution of racism and neglect dominated global media. Within Buckingham Palace, relationships grew even more strained. Reports surfaced of deep rifts between Harry and his brother William, as well as tensions with their father, King Charles. Harry has long been candid about the family's dysfunction, but the Oprah interview seemed to amplify these divides to an almost irreparable degree. As Harry reflects on these events at this stage, it's clear that the toll wasn't just emotional, but strategic. "You think you're steering the ship," he remarked, "but sometimes you're just a passenger." His words suggest a growing awareness of how media dynamics, however well-intentioned, can spiral into something far greater than anticipated. Perhaps it's not just the royal family, but also the media, even trusted figures like Oprah, that deserve scrutiny in shaping this narrative. The relationship between the Sussexes and Oprah wasn't forged overnight. In the lead-up to the interview, there were signs of growing camaraderie. particularly between Meghan and the media mogul. Oprah attended the couple's wedding in 2018, a public endorsement of her relationship with the newest members of the royal family. Reports suggest that Meghan and Oprah's connection deepened during Meghan's struggles with royal life, with Oprah often offering advice and support. But relationships in the public eye are rarely straightforward. Could this bond, once built on mutual understanding, have shifted into something transactional? Did Oprah's proximity to the Sussexes grant her exclusive access at the cost of objectivity? The narrative framing of the interview was undeniably compelling. Oprah's pointed questions about Archie's skin color, the lack of royal support for Meghan's mental health, and the couple's struggles with the press created a story of victimhood and resilience. But the focus on these specific themes left other parts of their story, like the positive aspects of their royal roles, largely untold. Was this an oversight, or was it a deliberate editorial choice to ensure maximum emotional impact? Harry's reflections are less about regret and more about understanding. He acknowledges the power of the media to amplify stories, but also its potential to distort them. When you're living it, the truth feels so clear. But when it's replayed for millions of people, it starts to look different, he said in a recent podcast. This sentiment suggests a shift in Harry's perception, not just of his royal journey, but of how it's been presented to the world. It's not hard to see why Harry might feel conflicted about the Oprah interview. While it marked a turning point for the Sussexes in carving out their own identity, it also defined them in ways they may not have fully anticipated. As Harry navigates life at this age, he seems keenly aware of the complexities of fame, influence, and storytelling. His reflections invite us to reconsider the forces at work behind one of the most talked about interviews in recent history. The impact of the Oprah interview extended far beyond its initial airing. It became a cultural flashpoint, dividing public opinion and reshaping how the world viewed both the Sussexes and the monarchy. For Harry and Meghan, the interview was a double-edged sword. While it allowed them to share their struggles, it also exposed them to a level of scrutiny they hadn't anticipated. Critics accused them of hypocrisy for seeking privacy while airing deeply personal grievances, while supporters praised their courage in confronting an institution as powerful as the British monarchy. But for Harry, the consequences of that moment have clearly lingered longer than anyone expected. As he reflected on his 40th year, Harry's remarks about the interview carried a new layer of complexity. It was a moment of truth, but also a moment of exposure, he said, describing the mixed emotions that followed. The interview marked a turning point in Harry's public persona. Once seen as the rebellious prince who lived in his brother's shadow, he became a vocal advocate for mental health, a critic of systemic racism, and a man determined to carve out a life beyond the royal bubble. But with this transformation came challenges he hadn't foreseen. One of the most profound outcomes of the Oprah interview was the fracture it created within the royal family. While Harry had already distanced himself from royal duties, the interview solidified the divide. In its wake, reports of strained relationships dominated headlines. His once close bond with Prince William seemed irreparably damaged, with sources describing the brothers as barely speaking. Tensions with King Charles, already fraught due to Harry's decision to step back from royal duties, intensified. Harry's decision to publicly discuss private family matters was seen by many within the palace as a betrayal. The repercussions of these strained relationships have continued to unfold, with the family rarely seen together in public since. For Oprah, the interview was a masterstroke of journalism, reaffirming her reputation as a media powerhouse. The broadcast attracted millions of viewers, dominated global headlines, and won critical acclaim. It was the kind of moment that defined her career, a carefully orchestrated blend of empathy, revelation, and spectacle. But Harry's recent reflections suggest that he may now view her role in the interview through a more critical lens. "You don't always see the full picture when you're in the middle of it," he remarked, hinting at a newfound awareness of the complexities at play. At the time of the interview, the Sussexes were at a crossroads. Having stepped back from royal duties in early 2020, they were navigating a new life in California, far from the constraints of palace protocols. Oprah's interview offered them a chance to reclaim their narrative, presenting their side of the story to a global audience. But the fallout was more intense than they had anticipated. In the weeks following the broadcast, the couple faced relentless media scrutiny. Every aspect of their lives, from their financial independence to their parenting choices, became fodder for public debate. Harry's remarks suggest that he has spent considerable time reflecting on these events. His recent comments about feeling like a passenger during the media frenzy indicate a shift in perspective. While he remains grateful for the opportunity to share his truth, there's a sense that he may now question whether the interview served his and Meghan's interests as fully as he once believed. The power dynamics between the Sussexes and Oprah, once seen as a collaboration of equals, are now being reevaluated. For Meghan, the interview was deeply personal. She spoke candidly about her mental health struggles, revealing that she had experienced suicidal thoughts during her time as a working royal. Her admission was both powerful and polarizing, sparking conversations about the monarchy's role in supporting its members and the stigma surrounding mental health. But Meghan's openness also made her a target. Critics accused her of exaggerating her struggles or seeking attention, while supporters praised her for her bravery. Harry's recent reflections, however, suggest that even Meghan may have underestimated the scale of the reaction. The interview also raised questions about the couple's relationship with the media. Having long criticized the press for its relentless coverage, Harry and Meghan found themselves at the center of a media storm once again. The irony wasn't lost on their critics, who questioned how a couple seeking privacy could simultaneously engage in such a high-profile interview. But for Harry, the issue was never about avoiding the spotlight entirely. It's about controlling the narrative, he explained in a recent podcast. His remarks highlight the delicate balance the couple has tried to strike, sharing their story on their terms while maintaining boundaries around their private lives. Oprah's role in shaping the narrative of the interview has also come under scrutiny. As one of the most influential figures in media, her ability to frame a story is unparalleled. The questions she asked, the topics she chose to highlight, and the way she guided the conversation all contributed to the interview's impact. But Harry's reflections suggest that he may now view Oprah's involvement as more complex than he initially realized. Was she simply providing a platform for their voices, or did she have her own motivations in mind? The interview's impact wasn't limited to the Sussexes and the monarchy. It also reignited broader conversations about race, mental health, and institutional accountability. The revelation that an unnamed member of the royal family had expressed concerns about Archie's skin color was particularly explosive, drawing widespread condemnation. For many, the interview represented a reckoning for the monarchy, forcing it to confront its role in perpetuating outdated norms and systemic inequalities. But for others, it was seen as an unfair attack on an institution that had no opportunity to defend itself. As Harry reflects on these events, his remarks suggest a growing awareness of the complexities involved. "Nothing is ever as simple as it seems," he said, describing the layered dynamics of media, family, and public perception. His words hint at a desire to move beyond the polarizing narratives that have defined his and Meghan's story in recent years. Harry seems more focused on understanding the forces that have shaped his journey, rather than simply reacting to them. The evolving relationship between the Sussexes and Oprah raises important questions about trust, influence, and the power of storytelling. While the interview was a defining moment for all involved, its legacy continues to be debated. For Harry, the journey of reflection and reevaluation is ongoing as he navigates the complexities of life in the public eye. At this stage in Harry's life, his reflections on the Oprah interview are not just about the moment itself, but about the broader implications of trusting the media to tell your story. Harry began to express a deeper understanding of the challenges of navigating fame, family, and personal truth. His decision to participate in the Oprah interview was, at the time, a bold declaration of independence from the royal machine. But it was also a moment of vulnerability, one that he now seems to view with a mix of pride and caution. The interview was a watershed moment for Harry and Meghan, but the ripple effects were far-reaching. For Oprah, the broadcast represented a career-defining moment that reaffirmed her influence as a cultural icon. For the Sussexes, it marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one in which they were free to speak their minds, but also free to face the consequences of doing so. For the royal family, it was a turning point that forced them to confront uncomfortable truths about race, privilege, and institutional support, or lack thereof. Harry's recent reflections suggest that he is still processing the lessons of that experience. He has described the interview as a moment of truth, but also acknowledged the complexities of sharing such personal details on such a global stage. "You think you're telling your story," he said recently, "but there are so many other factors at play." His words hint at a growing awareness of the power dynamics involved in media appearances, even those with trusted figures like Oprah. One of the key issues Harry seems to be grappling with is the question of control. In the Oprah interview, he and Meghan appeared to have taken the reins of their narrative, speaking candidly about their struggles and their decision to leave royal life behind. But as Harry has hinted in recent comments, the reality was more nuanced. While the interview allowed them to voice their truth, it also framed their story in ways that they may not have fully anticipated. For Oprah, the interview was a triumph of storytelling. Her skillful questioning and empathetic demeanor created an environment where Harry and Meghan felt comfortable sharing deeply personal experiences. But as Harry has reflected, the dynamics of such interviews are never entirely straightforward. Even as the Sussexes shared their story, Oprah's role as both a confidant and a media professional meant that her own interests were also at play. The interview was not just a personal conversation, it was a major media event with significant stakes for everyone involved. The aftermath of the interview highlighted the challenges of navigating public and private lives in the age of instant information. While Harry and Meghan were praised by many for their candor, they were also criticized by others for airing family grievances on such a public platform. The royal family, known for its stoic silence in the face of controversy, responded with a brief but pointed statement, saying that recollections may vary. This response only fueled further debate about the accuracy and fairness of the claims made during the interview. Harry's reflections on this period suggest a desire to move beyond the polarizing narratives that have defined much of his life. Harry appears to be focused on finding a more balanced perspective, one that acknowledges the complexities of his journey without reducing it to simple binaries of right and wrong. "Life is rarely black and white," he said in a recent interview. "It's about learning, growing, and understanding." This perspective has also influenced how Harry views his relationship with Oprah. While he remains grateful for the opportunity to share his story, his recent comments suggest that he may now see the interview as part of a larger media dynamic that is not always easy to navigate. Oprah, for her part, has continued to champion the Sussexes, but Harry's remarks hint at a more cautious approach to future collaborations. "You have to know who you're working with and why," he said recently, a statement that seems to reflect his evolving views on trust and influence in the media. For Meghan, the interview was a pivotal moment in her journey of self-discovery. Her revelations about mental health struggles and her experiences with racism within the royal institution were both deeply personal and profoundly impactful. But like Harry, she has also had to contend with the complexities of sharing such intimate details on a global stage. The couple's decision to speak out was a courageous one, but it also came with significant risks, including the potential for their words to be misunderstood or misrepresented. As Harry reflects on these events, his focus seems to be on finding lessons in the challenges he has faced. He has spoken about the importance of resilience and the need to stay true to one's values, even in the face of criticism. "You can't control how people react," he said, "but you can control how you respond." This mindset has become a guiding principle for Harry as he continues to navigate his role as both a public figure and a private individual. The evolving narrative surrounding the Oprah interview highlights the complexities of modern storytelling. While the interview was framed as an opportunity for Harry and Meghan to share their truth, it was also a carefully orchestrated media event with its own set of dynamics. For Harry, the experience has been a reminder of the power of media to shape perceptions and the importance of staying true to one's own narrative. As he moves forward, Harry's reflections on the Oprah interview are likely to continue shaping how he approaches his public life. Whether he chooses to share more of his story or take a step back from the spotlight, his experiences have given him a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities that come with being in the public eye. Harry is a man who has faced both triumph and adversity, and his journey is far from over. The Oprah interview was not just a personal revelation for Harry and Meghan. It became a cultural phenomenon that left lasting ripples across the world. In many ways, it marked a turning point, both for the couple and for how society viewed the monarchy. But as Harry reflected on that experience in his 40th year, the complexities of that moment seemed to weigh heavily on him. While the interview offered him a chance to reclaim his voice, it also placed him under a microscope, leaving him to grapple with questions about agency, trust, and the unintended consequences of telling one's truth. For Harry, the Oprah interview wasn't just about airing grievances, it was about liberation. Stepping away from the royal family had been a bold move, but it left him and Meghan vulnerable to speculation and criticism. The interview was their chance to explain their side of the story, offering the world a glimpse into the struggles that had driven them to step back. At the time, it seemed like a necessary step to regain control of their narrative. But as Harry has admitted in recent reflections, that control may have been more elusive than he realized. The media frenzy that followed the interview highlighted the risks of stepping into the public eye in such a dramatic fashion. While many praised Harry and Meghan for their courage, others accused them of hypocrisy and attention-seeking. The interview's revelations, particularly the claims of racism and lack of support for mental health struggles, sparked intense debates around the monarchy's role in modern society. But for Harry and Meghan, the personal cost was immense. Their relationships with the royal family deteriorated further, and the scrutiny they faced in the aftermath was relentless. Harry's recent comments suggest that he has spent considerable time reflecting on these events. He seems to be looking at the Oprah interview not just as a pivotal moment in his life, but as a lesson in the complexities of media and influence. He has spoken about the need to understand the motives of those you work with, hinting at a growing awareness of the power dynamics involved in such collaborations. While he has not directly criticized Oprah, his remarks suggest a nuanced perspective on her role in shaping the interview's narrative. Oprah, for her part, has maintained her reputation as one of the most influential figures in media. The interview was a triumph for her, reaffirming her ability to create moments that resonate on a global scale. But as Harry reflects on the experience, it's clear that he views it as more than just a moment of catharsis. "You think you're in control," he said in a recent interview, "but the reality is there are always other forces at play." His words hint at a sense of caution, a recognition that even the most well-intentioned collaborations come with their own set of challenges. For Meghan, the interview was deeply personal. Her revelations about mental health struggles and her experiences with racism within the royal institution were both courageous and controversial. But as Harry has suggested, the decision to share such intimate details came with significant risks. The backlash was swift and at times brutal, leaving the couple to navigate a new wave of public scrutiny. For Harry, watching Meghan face such criticism was a painful reminder of the challenges of living in the public eye. The couple's decision to participate in the Oprah interview was, in many ways, a gamble. It offered them a chance to tell their story on their terms, but it also exposed them to new vulnerabilities. Harry's reflections suggest that he has come to view the experience as a double-edged sword, an opportunity for liberation, but also a moment of exposure. As he looks back, he seems to be grappling with the complexities of that moment, trying to make sense of what it meant for him, his family, and his future. Harry is a man who has lived through extraordinary experiences, from the tragedy of losing his mother to the challenges of navigating life as a royal. The Oprah interview was just one chapter in his journey, but it was a chapter that has shaped much of what has come after. His reflections suggest a desire to move beyond the polarizing narratives that have defined so much of his story, seeking instead a more nuanced understanding of his place in the world. For Harry, the lessons of the Oprah interview are not just about the past, they are about the future. As he continues to build a life with Meghan and their children, he seems determined to approach his public role with greater clarity and purpose. While he remains committed to sharing his story, he also appears to be more mindful of the complexities involved in doing so. Harry is not just a man reflecting on the past, he is a man looking ahead, determined to shape his own narrative in a way that aligns with his values. The journey of self-discovery that Harry has embarked on is far from over. As he continues to navigate the challenges of fame, family, and personal growth, his reflections on the Oprah interview offer valuable insights into the complexities of modern storytelling. For Harry, the interview was a moment of truth, but it was also a moment of reckoning. A reminder that every story has multiple sides and that the truth is often more complicated than it seems. As Harry reflects on the monumental shifts in his life, it's clear that the Oprah interview stands as both a pivotal and complex milestone. Harry's perspective is shaped not only by the experiences he shared during that interview, but also by the way those revelations have echoed in the years since. For many, the Oprah interview represented Harry's declaration of independence, a moment where he and Meghan boldly stepped into the spotlight to share their truth. But for Harry, the aftermath has been a time of contemplation, growth, and an evolving understanding of the forces that shape public narratives. While the interview provided a platform for Harry and Meghan to voice their struggles, it also solidified their role as polarizing figures. To their supporters, they became symbols of resilience and courage, unafraid to challenge centuries-old traditions. To their detractors, they were seen as disruptors who aired private grievances on a global stage. This duality has followed them ever since, influencing every project, appearance, and statement they've made. For Harry, the tension between these narratives has been a source of both frustration and clarity. "You can't control how others perceive you," he said recently, "but you can control how you show up." His remarks suggest a man who has come to terms with the complexities of fame, a man who understands that his journey will always be scrutinized but who remains determined to stay true to his values. One of the most significant challenges Harry has faced since the Oprah interview is navigating his relationship with the royal family. The tensions that were laid bare during the interview have only deepened in the years since. While there have been moments of tentative reconciliation, such as Harry's attendance at King Charles's coronation, these moments have been overshadowed by reports of ongoing discord. For Harry, the challenge lies in balancing his desire for healing with his need to protect his own well-being. The Oprah interview also served as a turning point in Harry's relationship with the media. Having spent much of his life battling invasive press coverage, the interview represented a shift, a chance to take control of his narrative. But as Harry has reflected, that control is never absolute. The media, he has said, is both a powerful tool and a potential pitfall. His reflections suggest a growing awareness of the delicate balance between using the media to share his story and maintaining his own sense of privacy. At this age, Harry's focus seems to have shifted toward building a future that aligns with his values. Through initiatives like the Invictus Games and his work with mental health organizations, he has sought to channel his experiences into meaningful action. These efforts reflect a man who is not content to dwell on the past, but is determined to create positive change. For Harry, the Oprah interview was not the culmination of his journey, it was a starting point. Meghan, too, has found her footing in the years since the interview. While her decision to step back from acting and embrace a role as an advocate and entrepreneur was initially met with skepticism, she has gradually carved out her own space. From her podcast to her philanthropic work, Meghan has demonstrated a commitment to using her platform to amplify important conversations. For both Harry and Meghan, the years since the Oprah interview have been about redefining their roles and building a legacy that reflects their shared values. As Harry continues to reflect on the Oprah interview, his perspective offers valuable lessons about the complexities of modern storytelling. The interview was a moment of vulnerability, but it was also a moment of power, a reminder that sharing one's truth is both a personal and a public act. For Harry, the experience has been a reminder of the importance of authenticity and the need to stay grounded in one's values, even in the face of intense scrutiny. Looking ahead, Harry's journey is far from over. He is a man who has faced extraordinary challenges and emerged with a clearer sense of purpose. The lessons of the Oprah interview continue to inform his path, shaping how he approaches his role as a husband, father, and advocate. While the road ahead is uncertain, Harry's reflections suggest a man who is committed to building a life that aligns with his values, a life that honors both his past and his future. In the years since the Oprah interview, the world has continued to watch Harry's journey with a mix of fascination and critique. But for Harry, the journey is ultimately about more than public perception. It's about staying true to himself, learning from the past, and creating a future that reflects his deepest values. As he moves forward, Harry's reflections on the Oprah interview serve as a powerful reminder of the complexities of truth and the resilience required to navigate life in the spotlight. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.